we open ourselves up to that criticism when we make decisions like this. But what we also open ourselves up to is the possibility that someone sees the gospel in our authenticity, that someone sees the love of God, that someone understands the love of Christ just 1 inch better because we've been open and honest.
Yep.
And that's just the cry of my heart.
Hey, I'm Brandon.
Hey, I'm Chelsea.
And welcome to the Religious Dropouts Podcast.
Woo, and welcome to the month of June. It is Pride Month. And we're a couple weeks into June now, but we are celebrating Pride Month on the pod today. So we're excited to talk a little bit about that. And unfortunately, we do need to start the podcast talking about something that I would rather throw up than talk about. But Brandon, take it away.
It's probably because she has to admit defeat on the Crumbl cookie competition.
But let me say this though before I don't admit defeat all the way, because on our Spotify poll, Crumbl by far won out. I don't have the stats right now.
Maybe we have a strong Crumbl audience.
Yeah, we do. So thank you to our listeners for your support of Crumbl. Crumbl cookies lovers all over the world love you and thank you, and we appreciate you. So That was great.
And I can admit defeat within this space. Like, I'm good. I'll still stand by Insomnia cookies, but
last night, no, I don't. Last night we let the cookies talk, dude. Last night, Brandon was like, "Oh, we should get Insomnia," and Brandon asked his wife Jackie, my best friend, "Hey, can you go and get some cookies?" And she was like, "Yeah." And that feels like that's kind of the story. And it was good. It was a fun night. We had some Insomnia cookies.
Yeah, how'd they taste?
All right, they were. Listen,
they held it down.
You guys, they popped off. They really did pop off. And I don't know. I don't want to say it. Like, my stomach hurts. I'm feeling a little anxious. But the truth is, honestly, I think that
they were good.
I think that they were better than Crumbl.
Oh,
God, my eyes are shut. You can't see it if you're listening, but that was really hard. It's not because I'm wrong that it was hard. It's because I was so passionate. And when you lose something you're passionate about, it just hurts. And I was really passionate that Crumbl was superior. And then I took a few bites of those Insomnia, and I was wrong.
But again, we can work through when in disagreement and difference in beliefs.
I know.
We can work through that here. This is a safe space.
Which is funny, because we were having that conversation this morning, switching gears for a second, about how interesting it is that there are people who don't agree with us, who hate us, and maybe more me than you, I feel like, really, but you also get the brunt too, for our beliefs and the way we read the Bible and the way we understand scripture and the way we love and understand God. But we would still sit at the table with them. Like, we've actually tried having conversations with some of these people, but on the other side of the fence, God forbid, like, we're the enemy. Like, we are Satan. And speaking of Satan, we got a special segment for you this morning.
This one's called Keyboard Warriors for Christ.
And this keyboard warrior is spicy. All right, let's go. Keyboard warriors for Christ.
All right, so here's what we got this week. I just got a random link sent to me by again, we have to come up with a code name for this individual.
Yeah, we do.
Because they are constantly a keyboard warrior.
Yeah, they are.
But I got this link that just said the Satanic Temple is collecting donations for an LGBTQ camp in Florida. And let
me clarify really quick that we have a couple listeners. Like, I know this because they have messaged us actually. Yeah. That actually are very familiar, or even know a lot about the Satanic Temple, and actually they do not worship Satan. So I want to be clear on that for the sake of them. We are not members of the Satanic Temple, despite what people think and say about us. But I do want to just set the record straight that they don't really believe in anything. They don't believe in hell. They don't believe in God. But they don't worship the devil. So I just want to set that, because I just feel like ignorance can sometimes be the worst. So I
do have a cousin that posts stuff about the Satanic Temple. And he posted an ironic post that actually kind of expanded my mind a little bit.
Definitely.
Because I had no clue.
Same.
But he said something like, they don't believe in Satan and hell. It's the Christians that do.
Yeah, absolutely.
Interesting, right?
Yeah.
Like,
and so it is interesting. So I think it just goes to say, like, we don't know everything. We don't have it all figured out. So sending us that news link is interesting because that doesn't really make us feel, I say that's nice of you guys to raise money for a camp.
That's right.
For the LGBTQ community. But they sent it to us as a dig.
Right. To say that we're satanic.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. He didn't say anything along with it. I did respond back. I just really wish that we could like leave each other alone.
Yeah.
And then this individual says, I prayed for you and you have fell from grace. I'm going to have to really resist commenting after each sentence.
I know. It's tough.
Chelsea Whackadam is
sorry. Wait. What? Back up. Spell it out.
Chelsea Whackadam. Wackadam. I want to get you a nameplate, like at the CEO's office.
Dude.
Chelsea Whackadam, CEO.
You guys, after this episode releases, I'm changing my damn Facebook name. Chelsea Whackadam.
That's funny.
We've got to do it for like a month for the dropouts and delinquents. We've got to do it so they can really know. Like, we've got to do it. Yeah.
Chelsea Whackadam is pure evil, but you have been deceived. And this is that thing we were talking about. Like, they hate both of us, but for some reason, you're pure evil, but I've been deceived. And I don't know if there's like a...
I think you deserve more credit. You are super educated and you are great at making decisions. Maybe I've been deceived. Like, what? Maybe you're the pure evil and I've been deceived by you.
But maybe you're a witch and you put me under your spell. And
It's true. It's true.
Yeah, exactly.
We're not going to have our wand out on the show right now, but we'll have it for next episode.
Must obey all of Chelsea's actions.
Absolutely. Yeah, you're under the curse for sure. Gosh.
He goes on to say, you definitely aren't the first woke church deconstructionists I have seen and won't be the last. And to that, I can agree and say I am not the first.
Absolutely not.
And I also hope I'm not the last.
Yeah,
because
me neither.
People need to go through this.
Yeah, and they need to ask more questions about Christ and their relationship with God.
If they're interested in some church deconstructionists, I would point them towards people like Jesus Christ. I'd point them towards people like Martin Luther. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
It always ends bad for those who turn from God.
And that felt like a threat, brother. It always ends bad for those who turn from God.
He's coming for us.
Number one, how threatening, first of all, like the audacity. But the other part of that is the turn from God. Like, I don't know, and we've talked about this before, like, I don't know what it is about our questions about the Bible, about our studying of the Bible and how things, we literally just spoke last episode about the things that have transformed our hearts and our minds to be where we are with the Bible and the scriptures and Jesus now. And it's so interesting to me that I think both of us would say we feel closer to Christ than we probably ever have.
Yep.
But for some reason, we're far from God.
They can't help but take away our Christian card.
Definitely. Yeah. Yep. Yeah. So my favorite was the Chelsea Whackadam is pure evil. That was my favorite. But I also loved, really quick, and then we'll move on, is where he says that you have fell from grace. Like, I wonder if he's got a one-way.
That's the part that gets me, honestly.
A one-way call to God, or a two-way call to God, where God let him know, hey, I gave Brandon grace and he's fallen. So
you know, like how we get analytics on how our videos are doing?
Yeah, God lets him know.
I wonder if he's like an admin on God's, like...
I agree. The
God's
grace
calculator. Yeah, you know what I mean? And he's like, Brandon,
yeah,
you have 2 chances left.
And you just lost the last one.
And then I just lost it, and he had to let me know.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah. So it's interesting. Is it a walkie-talkie situation? I do have questions. I'd like to get further further clarity.
Soup can in the string?
Yeah. That's all the way from it. Are you there, God? It's me. Pure evil.
Yeah.
But yeah, so good. Good. Anyway, so moving on from that was just a lovely call that we got, or not call, keyboard warrior that we had this week.
How do you guys feel about this keyboard warrior for Christ jingle at the beginning?
Yeah, let us know.
Oh, let us know.
Yeah, we love it. So I want to kind of get into, we really do want to talk a little bit about Pride Month, and Pride and kind of what it means to us. And just, I don't know that I can speak for myself and say a year ago, I went to, which this is hilarious, another hot take. I went to Target, because they corrupt the kids and are terrible.
Oh yeah.
And so I went there a year ago because I'm pure evil, and they had launched their Pride collection, and I remember getting a couple of things that I loved. I got a really cool shirt. I talked about that on the first episode, and then I got a really cute bag that I loved that was all about like the dreamers and believers that the world can be better, and like it mentions being queer, and just a really cool like bag and stuff. And I remember not being able to use the bag or post about it. I remember just feeling really like my heart felt really broken, that I was in a place of, I was serving as a Nazarene pastor. I had a couple of more than a couple students in my life.
Yeah.
Not at my local church level. I mean like district wide. Like I had a lot of students I worked with, and several of them had come out to me at that point in their sexualities, that they felt safe that they could share that with me. Some parents whose kids had come out to them.
Yep.
The parents were meeting with me and wanting to talk with me about how to navigate those waters, and how to love their kid, but they were hurting, right, and scared for their kid. And so I just got to this point where like I was navigating, feeling like God called me to the Nazarene church, and God was using me in the Nazarene church, but that I was not safe there, and that I had to, like, for myself, that like it was not right. It was not right. And so it's crazy to be a year. It's been a year, like a literal almost 1 year from that date, from that feeling. And here we are on our podcast for episode, 5, talking about Pride Month openly and candidly.
Yeah.
So that seems pretty cool.
Kind of a dream that we didn't know that was in us, I guess, to be free in this space.
Yeah. So I just wonder with you, like, what does it kind of mean? What does Pride Month kind of mean to you, or why does it matter to you? Like, kind of just wondering where your heart is.
Yeah, I don't know if it's something that I could have said even a year or two ago. Like, I understood its importance, but but when you sit with people that pride for who they are, who God's made them to be, who they love, like all of that really is so central to their identity.
Yeah.
And I don't necessarily always understand that as a straight man.
Yeah.
Because the world defaults to me.
Right. Yeah.
So
right.
I don't.
You feel they're straight men are celebrated in a lot of occasions.
In many ways, the world defaults to me.
Yeah.
So.
And I appreciate your acknowledgement of that.
Yeah.
Sure.
So I guess I just don't know what it's like to deal with the 365 days a year.
Yeah.
Feeling like I'm an annoyance to people because if a beer can celebrates me,
for the love of God,
they're upset.
Yeah.
If I might be targeted.
Everything about your identity is targeted.
Like literally, if I'm true to who I am.
Yeah.
At the bar with other people that are true to who I am,
yeah,
I'm at risk for my life.
Yeah.
So do I see that it's important that we spend a month, a year, where we're trying as a culture to acknowledge, like, be who you are.
Yeah.
Be proud of who you are. Like, because I hope that month translates to now we don't have the rest of the year where people hate you.
You can feel a little safer in July.
I hope.
Yeah. I hope to.
Yeah. I mean, we got a lot to do to make people a lot more safer in this country. Like, that's not like, there's more there we could say.
Yeah.
But I think I'm learning that, although I don't need to be proud of my straightness or my whiteness because it's the world's defaulted to me.
Yeah.
I'm learning that it's so valuable for people that aren't me.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I think that explanation is beautiful because it came from you, and it didn't come from, like, a queer person didn't have to say that. Like you just said, I'm a straight white male, and I acknowledge that this community needs to be celebrated and needs safer spaces. And I think that's beautiful. And I also think for me, when I think about Pride Month, I think of so many I actually think of so many students that I had in my ministry over the last 10 years in some capacity that had come out to me, and they felt alone, and they felt shame, and they felt isolated, and they just wondered, like, is there anybody out there who will ever understand who I am? And then they get to college, or they move out, or they get into spaces with other people or other Christians who are affirming, who do acknowledge Pride Month, and they find community. And they find community that they wouldn't have found unless if Pride Month wasn't a thing, because Pride kind of unites that community.
Yep.
And so I think it also is such an invitation to new people who come into that community who didn't know if there was a place for them, who didn't know if there were people like them. And they get a whole month to find stores and coffee shops and, environments that not only celebrate that, not only tolerate and love them, but celebrate them. So
if you've never been marginalized, then you don't understand
the importance.
You by default don't understand the importance of finding communities that you feel safe in.
Yeah.
You wouldn't I hope Pride Month doesn't take as long as it has for things like Black History Month.
Yeah, my God.
But God, do I have to hear another white person say like, why do we have to have a whole month? And now it's this month and Native American Heritage Month.
Yeah, Why we got to add things in the calendar? Okay, that wasn't fair. I don't know why I use that voice.
Well,
put the pit vipers away. You know what I'm saying? No, I'm just kidding. It may be super hard to find a place to go to church, but I'll tell you what's not difficult. A place to find a bomb-ass coffee with incredible ingredients, an impeccable science process, and the coolest workers we've ever met.
Yeah, we're talking about Strange Matter Coffee that's located in Lansing, Michigan. And it's on the east side of town. They're opening one in MSU's campus. They're really incredible. They have great style, which I always love in a coffee shop, but even better people and product.
Yeah, and Strange Matter is one of the best inclusive environments we've ever been to. We're super excited that they are sponsoring the Religious Dropouts podcast that you're listening to right now. And we asked the chief executive of Snark, our friend Kara, what her favorite product is on the menu, and this is what she said. Her favorite item is the cold brew concentrate that we steep with ground chicory root. And then we combine the concentrate with ice, simple syrup, and milk. It is the sweetest drink on our menu, and it is a huge crowd favorite. Thanks for that recommendation, Kara. We can't wait to try it when we're there.
I'm into a Pop-Tart and a vanilla latte, so check that out too.
We love you, Strange Matter. Thank you. So a couple of things too I was thinking about along with Pride Month is like our theology had changed a little bit. And I don't know, I think that your theology should always be changing.
Yeah.
I think if you read the Bible, there was a time where you would have read the scriptures in the Old Testament and you would have said, you can't have tattoos. You can't wear mixed materials in your clothing. Yeah. You can't eat on certain days. You can't do this. There's a lot of rules. And I think Jesus comes and kind of changes the scene for us. He really changed the game in the way that we understood some of those scriptures and the way that we understood our culture and the people around us. And I think that we should always be changing. Our theology and the way we read and understand the Bible should always be changing based on our relationship with God and based on our relationship with others.
Yeah.
But there are a couple of books that I think really changed the game for me. And I know that we talked about this like 3 or 4 episodes already, but I know for sure that Brandon, you might not have a book title necessarily, but I know that you've really spoke about Rachel Held Evans and the way that inclusive writing guided you. Are there any pastors or books that got you to be on the other side? Like, are there any books that like were the opposite that they taught you like, wait, that's not right? Or like, you know what I mean? Like, I just wondered kind of what your experience has been there.
Yeah, I make sure I'm exposed to different people and different denominations and
like on social media.
Yeah. Like Reverend Jackie Lewis is a pastor in New York, and she has a book called Fierce Love. But I follow her on social media, and I found her through a calendar of holy troublemakers and unconventional saints.
So cool.
It's almost like I'm what you guys will find is I'm like an eclectic researcher archivist.
Definitely.
So I find these.
That's going on his Instagram bio, by the way. New Instagram bio.
On.
God, that's so good.
I know.
And we did have a season where we were writing your bio. Do you remember that? Or was it Facebook maybe?
I now have a long note because I've done the podcast bio. I've done like my new job intro. So I'm kind of I need to write some of the stuff that I like about me. And then now I'm like writing it all out.
Definitely. Yeah.
What I would say is certain people it's not like there's any book by Rachel Held Evans that gives here is the defense to understanding gay people should exist and be loved by God. Like, it's just like she was open to it. And
right. Yeah. Her heart and her posture was
exactly.
open. Yeah. And she was incredibly intelligent.
She spoke, I think it's in what's the title for?
I think it's
Searching
Inspired.
for Sunday.
Oh, yeah.
Where she talks about going to a Christian conference for people in the LGBTQ community.
Yep.
And she talked about how she thought she was going to go there and teach them about some different things about the Bible.
And they
but
actually taught her.
They taught her. Yeah.
I also think about people like Matthew Paul Turner.
Okay.
Matthew Paul Turner is an author and an activist, and he is an LGBTQ community member. He is a gay father. And he's amazing, but he writes children's books.
Yeah.
And Rory has all of them that he's written so far. I think he has 3 maybe now that he's written, and they are the most beautiful, inclusive storytelling tools that really helped me to understand God's love was bigger than I thought.
Yep.
And I think having a child changed that too. Mm-hmm. And honestly, I remember having this conversation with a minister who's also an ex-minister now in the Church Nazarene, actually recently. And him and I were talking, and I told him about how thinking about my daughter and who she would grow up to be, changed the game for me, because as I thought about if Rory grows up and ends up a part of this community, and we're a part of a denomination, her mom's a pastor in a denomination that says it's not okay to be who you are authentically, I will never ever forgive myself. And so that was even above the books and the education and the inclusive mindset and our favorite author, even above all that stuff. I think that personal, having my daughter, that was a huge, it changed everything for me. Yeah. It really did change everything for me.
Well, and even like with my brother Cody,
we love you, Cody.
There's a lot of people. Yeah, Cody, I'm definitely gonna have to ask permission.
He'll be like, tag me, bro.
I know, right? There's a lot of people that I think a lot of Christians are like, well, if you go to that wedding, you're saying you're supporting 100% of like that lifestyle and whatnot. And which now I'm kind of like, so, but
catch me there then, baby.
Yeah, exactly.
But
I think that even bothered me when I shared that view.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, going there doesn't say all that.
Yeah, right. You guys can't even go to a gay wedding. That's what and I'm in the same denomination. Oh my God, I gotta get out.
Yeah.
I totally get that.
Because I was just kind of like, no, if I'm going to be a part of these big moments in his life.
Absolutely.
So, I mean, hands down, like you ain't not going to catch me at my brother's wedding. Like,
okay. Yeah, definitely. Totally.
Yeah.
A couple of books I do want to say though. I had a phone call with somebody who is in the Nazarene Church still, and I will be very I'm going to be very loving in how I speak about this person, even though we fundamentally disagree. This person called me and he said, hey, can we talk about something that you put on Facebook? I said, yep, for sure. And he called me, and our conversation, he said, I want to understand why you think it's okay to be gay. And these are 2 books that not only do I want to recommend to him, but I want to recommend to you guys too, if you're struggling, because I think Brandon and I have been very clear on this podcast up to this point that your wrestling is safe here. Even if it's not agreeing with us. Like if your wrestling is, well, I don't know if God loves gay people. Well, then give these books a read, listen to these conversations, get to know some gay Christians and pastors, and let's keep having this conversation. You're still loved and welcome here. Okay. But if you're wrestling, or if you identify in the LGBTQIA+ community, a couple of books that I think were very transformational for me, like theologically, like actually really understanding the defense of this life and this identity. God and the Gay Christian by Matthew Vines. And I actually saw him. He spoke at a conference, and that's where I got the book. Because I was so intrigued by the education piece of what he did. Mm-hmm. So that's a great one. And then Jesus, the Bible, and Homosexuality by Reverend Jack Rogers. And those are 2 incredible books. So just a really quick plug to those, and we'll link them in the show notes for you. Yeah. Hopefully so you can pick them up and maybe give them a read if you're interested or having some questions. But
man, I could give you 8 people to follow.
Yeah. Oh, we should post some of those people.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Matthew Paul Turner, who I just referenced as the author, like his social media is incredible.
Yeah.
And so when we think about some of those people that we even mention, as we talk about books and preachers and things like that, they do have great content.
Yeah.
Shane Claiborne, I love Shane Claiborne.
Reverend Carla on on TikTok.
Yep.
Yeah.
I know tons of people that are obsessed with her, and she's got a lot of grace, speaks with a lot of grace and wisdom. So yeah, we'll definitely share some stuff for you guys, so you can actually like click some things and go to some places.
I want to ask you, do you feel some sort of way about them, that pastor reaching out to you to ask you, why do you believe it's okay to be gay?
You know, here's what I've learned. Number one, in some ways it's like I wish that they would do their own due diligence.
That's what I'm wondering.
But that doesn't bother me.
Okay.
Because I'm like, you see what I believe and you want to ask about it. That says something about what God's doing in your heart. Like, I believe that. I really believe that in that person, God's doing a work in them. Mm-hmm. Whether they ever acknowledge that or leave, or become a keyboard warrior after this episode, like I don't know. But the reality is that person, to me, I know that God was doing something for them to ask that question.
Yeah, definitely.
And so however I can come alongside understanding that question, oh my God, I have no offense to that. Like, please ask me all day, every day.
I always feel like sometimes I know their request is out of, we built a relationship.
Yeah.
So they're coming to me.
Sometimes.
But then sometimes it's like, you're asking me for resources
that you're fully capable of getting.
That you're fully capable of looking.
Yeah,
and especially when they're like, well, I've looked, I've tried.
Yeah, I know. You definitely haven't, but yeah, I know. So it can be tough for sure, but I just don't see it that way. And I think a lot of people who are, I noticed that with people of color too. Like, my boss is Black, and I would go to her with conversations and questions, and I would ask her that same question, like, does it bother you? And she would always say no, because I am a lived experience. And so, like, I'm not bothered that you are asking. I think she was also really thankful that I was reading books and like trying to understand things as well. But I think she was always super open to talking with me and being comfortable with, like, she knew that she had the experience and the ability to share that with me, and she was open to that. So maybe sometimes just asking people if they're comfortable.
She's a legend. I can't wait to have her on this podcast.
Pastor Heather Boone, man. She is. Yeah. She's great. Yeah. So.
Yeah. You think she's coming on?
I do. We're going to do a racial reconciliation kind of episode, I think, where we're going to really talk about, and I think that's coming. I think almost we have that planned for episode 9 or 10, where we're really going to talk about race and how it's affected, like how we understand that. I think that conversation is going to be really beautiful, and we need people of color to guide that conversation. And so hopefully
we've got to figure out how to put like some benches in the studio.
I know, dude.
So that we can have 2 other people at max.
I know. Or we can put like a stool right here and they can just sit right. We'll have like right here. It's gonna be hilarious.
Oh, like a filled up living room?
Yeah.
Oh, do you remember sitting with like siblings and one person, like when the couch is too small?
Or it was like for Christmas or like holidays.
Oh yeah, holidays. The sit on the floor but your back's against the chair a little bit. Somehow that's such a vibe during a holiday party.
I know it is. I know. If you have the spot on the couch, it's a vibe.
Where are we headed next?
Yeah. So I was just thinking about like being a part of the church and ministry, and I just kind of was thinking how we ministered to the LGBTQ community when we were pastors.
Okay.
And in a denomination that was not affirming. So definitely more tricky, definitely difficult.
Yep.
But I was thinking about like how did we know? I was just kind of thinking like, we read the books, we had the conversations, we had lived experiences with people, but I wonder like how you definitively know and understand God's love to that community. Like, what is your experience? You're a straight male, married to a woman. And I just kind of want to know, like, if you're talking to the LGBTQ community, how do you know that they're loved by God? Like, what's your, you know what I mean? Yeah. I just want to know what your voice, you know what I mean? Like, what's your voice in that?
Yeah. I just think, when I was a pastor, I loved my students. I love them to this day. Jackie will tell you, I answer calls that should not be calling at certain times, like,
all the time. Yeah.
And
still,
and I let things interrupt my days.
Yeah.
I think I invited probably 30 students to my wedding.
Yeah.
that I have pastored over.
And
or
I took
shepherded,
pictures with
and,
like 10 of them. No,
you
they
did.
were there, and
You
it was
did.
great.
One of them said, "Be-him, we gotta go. We didn't get to take a picture with you because we just gotta go. But we took one with Chelsea." It's funny. It's funny that it was like, if we can't have Brandon, we got one with Chelsea, so like we're good.
Shut up! I'm crying. At your wedding, I'm dead. We got
That was
Photoshop you into
Simon,
that.
Lucas, and
my
Jimmy,
I love them. Some of my favorite kids.
who I can shout out. I think. on the
God, I
podcast.
love them. Yeah, Simon's gonna record a little voice clip for us to play
Oh
on
my
the pod
gosh,
sometime.
he
just
messaged me after every
Yeah,
episode.
I love him. God, he's so good. They're great. Oh my God, I miss them so much.
we
Anyway,
went to lunch the other day.
yeah. So
Um,
loving students. Sorry.
Yeah. So when you love them like that, you love them with everything that makes them who they are.
Yeah.
And that's not just for the straight ones. Do you know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
So it crosses over. So when
Mhm.
I'm looking at the personhood of my student who's trans or who's gay, and and you're just like, no, I just love them, like,
Yeah.
you know, and I can sit with you, like,
Mhm.
there is not, I think for some people, I don't know, I can't necessarily say I know what it's like to be trans in those spaces, but I know there are conversations those individuals have sat through, and they don't feel seen,
Mhm.
because all that church member is looking at is you, but all they're thinking about is if you should exist or not.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? They're questioning
if it's okay if you're trans or
yeah.
not. If it's okay if you're gay or not. Yeah.
And
they
they're
already
gonna call
have their
you your
mind
dead
made up.
name anyways.
Yeah.
Like that's what's so wild.
Yeah.
And so, like, when you see my eyes looking at you, I want you to see a human.
Yeah.
That's seeing you.
Yeah.
And I think when
that's not you, right? You know that's God in you. And that's the connection of how God sees them.
Yep. I've always been a little Mr. Rogers inspired. If I could be called anything like that, like, that'd be crazy cool.
100%.
But even nieces and nephews, when I haven't been a parent like you.
Yeah.
But when you see somebody
close, because these kids,
when you see somebody that you've grown up watching their personhood develop,
mm-hmm.
like, if we are anything resembling of God the Father, because this is your question, right? How do I know that God loves them?
Absolutely.
If we're anything related to, when I'm a youth pastor, I feel mentor-like. I feel like leader-like. And if God is a further iteration, if God is Father, is leader like that, man.
Yeah.
And he's watched us develop. Oh man, I just know he loves
like he's
us.
seen the story from the beginning.
And I know a lot of people have had issues with parents, but I mean, I just think in my dad loved people, loved people. And just like, we had at his funeral, like, just anybody everybody came up to the mic and just said how seen they felt by my dad and how loved, despite what the world might look at them. There was one person that really, I think, spoke really well of my dad, and just got it probably better than some of his kids that actually had carved time. There was one person that spoke for like 4 minutes, and I felt nailed it. But but man, it just is like that. If that's what God the Father is supposed to be like,
that's right.
I know he loves you, gay, straight, trans, anything.
Yeah, that is really, and I love that about your dad. I felt that so deep about your dad. I still feel that way about your dad.
And I want to say, like, I've studied. I'm well researched. I'm well.
It's not it's not just a feeling.
But I do think God's given me a heart.
Yeah.
And I feel with people, and that's where I can be in both camps.
Yeah.
You know. So.
Yeah. No, I think that's beautiful. Yeah. Along that same track.
Yeah, for you, what's it? What's it like? How do you know that God loves them?
So I want to read this quote by one of my favorite authors, which we talked about last episode, but it says, "I am here to keep becoming truer, more beautiful versions of myself again and again and again forever." And Glennon Doyle said that. And I think back to when I was a little girl, and it's hard because I was anxious that this would feel, I don't know why we're so private and why we're so secret about our identities if and when they are a part of the LGBTQ plus community. But I think it's out of fear of hate and condemnation and judgment and shame. And I think that in order to break the chains of those things, we have to be open and honest about who we are and keep becoming the most true and beautiful and authentic versions of ourselves, because it's the only way to stop making it a secret. It's the only way to stop making it bad or dangerous, or is to be honest and out and about who you are.
Yeah.
And so I can remember as a young girl going through these feelings where I really felt like I didn't really understand when people would make jokes about, like, oh, is he your boyfriend? You know, like I'd be like, well, I didn't really resonate with that, because I didn't really feel like I didn't have that necessarily towards men. I had it just in general. Like there were some people I knew as a young, as an elementary school student, or maybe more middle school. I wasn't really thinking about anything like that in elementary school, but more so middle school. And I found that my attraction was not just to men. And I really wrestled with that, because I'm like, okay, well, that's probably just all girls feel this, right? Like, this is just like it's your sexuality, right? You're growing up, you're changing. And then the older I got, I realized that there was a label on that sexuality and on that part of your identity. It is not your identity. It's part of your identity. And our identities, a part of the LGBTQ plus community, are all encompassing. They are, my identity lies in God first and foremost. And then my identity lies in that community, and my identity lies in my family. My identity lies in my friends, in the things I do, in the books I read. Like, my identity is composed of way more than bisexuality. But the reality of my story is that I've known since I was very young that I am bisexual, that I am a part of the community, and it feels really scary to know that this is going to be like out for the world.
Yeah.
But I know that there are people listening to this podcast that need to know that we don't just speak from a place of understanding in a way because we've read the books and we know the theology. We live it. Brandon lives it every day, and knowing who I am, and he's known for a long time. And I live it every day as an active member of this community. I am married to Tyler, as most of you know. But it doesn't change this part of my identity. And I know that without a shadow of a doubt that I am created and loved by God.
Yeah.
And as I navigated how open and honest to be about this, and I will give a disclaimer that most people in my life know.
Yeah.
This is not a secret to most of the people that know me and love me. Actually, it's not a secret to most of the college students that I mentor, right? Because I usually work with and mentor them because of this connection that we share. But and work with them in undoing some of that shame and hurt. And what I found is, as I'm working with these students and these adults in undoing this shame and hurt, I'm sitting in the closet. And I'm like, I don't feel like I need to make some big Facebook post. I don't think, because it's not my whole identity. It's just a part of who I am. So I haven't felt this big need to make this big, let's have a big party and but at the same time, I felt like I could not keep showing up to this podcast, and we could not keep having these conversations and me have this part of me that is a secret, that is this big, that is this, I don't know how to explain it, but it just felt like it wasn't fair and it wasn't right. And we get messages every day, Brandon and I, and the podcast page.
Yeah.
We get messages every day from stories just like this, from people who are stuck in chains of shame, or they're afraid. And I need you to know, from someone that is a member of the community, that I have heard from God, that I study the scriptures, that I love Jesus with all of my heart. Mm-hmm. And God has never asked me to be different. God has never told me and never indicated to me that my identity is less than what he has created. And God has continued in my life to bring fruit after fruit after fruit after fruit in all that I have done and created and worked on. because God is always affirming in me who he created me to be as a bisexual child of God. And so if you're listening to this morning, I really want you to know that in this space, you will never be tolerated. You will be celebrated.
Yep.
And you will be loved.
Yep.
And I just feel like I couldn't authentically say that to you without sharing my own story with you.
Yeah.
As hard and as scary as this moment is for me. And we open ourselves up to that criticism when we make decisions like this. But what we also open ourselves up to is the possibility that someone sees the gospel in our authenticity, that someone sees the love of God, that someone understands the love of Christ just 1 inch better, because we've been open and honest.
Yep.
And that's just the cry of my heart in sharing something that is really is scary. But God has given me peace that somebody listening to this is desperate for those words spoken over them. And from God's mouth, or from God's mouth to my ears, from my lips to yours, like, please hear those words. So true from my heart.
I know I can't necessarily talk in a as if this is fresh news to me. But I just want you
shocked?
to say, I just want you to hear me say, like, I do think God created you this way, and you are beautiful the way that God's created you. And so are you, if you're listening. Chelsea said we're prepared for criticism when we say stuff like this, and that is true. But I just want to say, if you are listening to this and you hate my sister in Christ here, Chelsea, like, I will fight you. Like, I just want you to know, like,
physically, or we were not catching a charge.
The more you fuck around, the more you find out. So
put the chart on the screen. Put the chart on the screen.
I haven't swore the whole episode, so maybe I'll just cash it all in on that one.
Oh, please put the chart on the screen. We'll put the chart
actual
up.
chart.
We'll put the chart up.
That's what I'm not saying I'm not a physical fighter. But
God.
Hear me in this. Chelsea being vulnerable about who God's created her does not give you permission to manipulate and to attack and to spread lies. Too many people come out on Facebook, and I see a lot of Christians abusing that vulnerability.
Yeah.
So
it just furthers the shame.
I'll be so damned if you talk about her. I just want to be real about that. Like,
yeah. No, and I really appreciate that, because I know it's coming. A message is probably coming into the inbox as you're speaking right now.
Yeah.
And I think for me, I will just say that if you are listening to this and you feel the ways that Brandon just described, God created you too, and me taking up space isn't taking anything from you.
Nope.
And you are free to be who you are, and loved by God and chosen by him. And we're allowed to be different, and we're allowed to think different. When we think about Pentecost, it's something the church celebrates as this moment that, the tongues of fire, the fire came among all the people and everyone could understand each other. And I don't think we're there. I think that the Holy Spirit, for some reason, we don't understand each other's languages all the time yet. But that day is coming in heaven. And I want to be there with you in your hate, as it's transformed in front of Christ's eyes. And so I want you to just think about what that could look like if you could just take a step back and think about what this is all for. And it's not for this moment. It's not for this podcast. It's for the eternity of our lives. It's for what's to come. And I just pray that we can all come to a place of understanding with that. And it's okay to not agree, but it's about so much bigger than these moments.
Yeah.
And so, yeah.
I loved what you said about you being who you are doesn't take up anything from me.
Yeah.
And that's just so true. Like, there is enough airways, there's enough space,
there's
for
enough
all
churches,
of us.
there's enough
Totally.
there's enough Bible studies. There's enough
Half your
Facebook
churches
groups.
are empty anyways.
Yeah.
Fill the seats. God.
There are plenty of people out there like you. It might just not be on this podcast.
That's right.
Go find them. But for those of you that are like us, that do think like us,
Yep.
This is what we're here for, dropouts. This is what
Yep.
all of this was for. Not for this episode, but for this sacred space and for this community of people who know without a shadow of a doubt that God loves them as they are. And we just want to meet you there.
So happy Pride Month. We out here. We have confetti cannons to celebrate.
Because we want to celebrate you. We want you
Yeah.
to feel that when you watch this. Like, we want you to feel what we feel in this room. And you better not point that at me. That is way too close to my face. It's at 10 feet away, bro. Okay. But we're going to shoot we just want you to feel this moment. We're going to play some music behind this. And we're just going to just sit in this moment with us as just a celebration of who you are and exactly how God made you.
Do we go instant dance party after?
We go instant something.
Okay.
We just
Do we
I'm
count
scared.
to 3? You're just going to go?
Do a count. One.
Yep.
Wait,
2.
go out a little bit.
Do it together. 1,
Wait, yeah.
1, 2, 3.
Happy Pride Month.
Happy Pride Month. We love you all.
Bye, dropouts.
Bye.
Hey fam, thanks for listening to this week's episode of the Religious Dropouts podcast. We hope it gave you a space to breathe, to laugh, and connect. It's our hope that as you journey along with us, that you too might find yourself saying, damn, it feels good to be a dropout. Be sure to check out our show notes for links to anything mentioned in this episode, including ways to connect with us on social media. We'd also love for you to like, subscribe, and share this podcast with anyone you know who might want to join our community. You are loved. Have a great week.